Hi guys, so I'm going to teach you how to approve a Zoho expense report in Zoho Expense. And just a little disclaimer, again, I had the same thing in my last video, but if you guys are looking for more of a technical tutorial, more technical definitions, I'm sure there's a bunch of great resources that you can find online for Zoho Expense. I'm just giving you guys a quick tutorial for the purpose of how we use this for expat. And it's also, of course, coming from someone who doesn't really understand technology super well, being me. And I just wanted to give you guys like a very user-friendly guide, a quick guide, so that you can just see how we use this for our purposes. So that is the purpose of this tutorial. So the first thing that I need you guys all to do, assuming that you're watching this video, you have admin status on Zoho Expense. And admin status being you are all VPs of finance, financial officers, or you're all in charge of the finances for your specific location. So that is assuming that you have this admin status. If you go over here to your board dashboard, so signing in to expense.zoho.com, see your dashboard here, and you'll know if you have admin status because if you come over here to this sidebar, you'll see that you have these first 5 categories, which most all of the board members on your team should have if they are submitting Zoho expense reports. If you have admin status, you'll be able to see this reports approval as well as advanced approval category. Now, for the purposes of our usage, we'll be only using reports approval, so don't worry about advanced approval for now. Now, the first thing that I need you guys to do at the beginning of every semester or whenever you create your events calendar, you're going to have to go in and manually type in the projects that you're going to have expense reports for. So you'll only have to do this once in the beginning of the semester unless something changes with your events team. But for now, we'll go ahead and show you how to do that. So you come over here to the sidebar and you click on admin. Then you're going to go ahead and go into settings. And you'll see here on the under list here in settings, you'll see projects. Now, what I like to do is, like I said, once I get my events calendar confirmed with the events team, I like to just at one time put all of the active projects in. So you can see here we have some past projects. We have meet and greet. This is not past because it's actually a current project, but the meet and greet for Boston fall 2019. You'll have in LA, we had our welcome back event, which we called Aperitivo, fall 2019 as well. So we try to be very specific with this. You have the project name as well as when it occurred and who it pertains to. So for example, we can put in a project for LA. So I know that we have coming up our pool party. So I can type in pool party dash fall 2019. And I know that this pertains to the LA location. So I'm going to put downtown LA, and I am Julian. I'm the VP of operations. I'm using his account right now. So I am going to be the user for this project. Go ahead and save. And now we see here that the project name comes up for pool party. So then from the person, the board member who submits a Zoho report from their side, they're going to see this option to submit an expense if they have an expense related to this project. So like I said, you'll only probably have to do this once unless something changes for your events team. I like to put them in all at once just so I don't forget. All right, so once you have that finished, you go ahead and go to your dashboard, and like I said, this is expense.zoho.com. And I see here that I have a report pending approval. Now, I have the location as well as the board member who sent in the approval. This is Alejandro Garcia, who is the VP of events for LA. So I'll go ahead and either click on it from here, or what I personally like to do, I like to work off this sidebar. So I like to just go to my reports approval. The reason I say that is because say you have a bunch of reports, in this case there's only one here, but say you have a bunch, sometimes it's hard to navigate because this dashboard won't show all of them. You'd have to like scroll through. So it's fine right now, but what I just like to do is I like to go to my reports approval tab. Now from here, you'll see that there's two tabs. There's my approvals and all approvals. You guys will only have to worry about my approvals because your approvals will be sent to you. And what I mean by that is if you are ISK in Boston, you're going to get all of the Boston approvals. You shouldn't be getting any approvals from LA or DC. And if I'm Isabella in DC, same thing. I'm just going to be getting all of DC's approvals. I won't be getting anything from LA and from Boston. All right, so I come here and I see all their approvals that I need to work on, and I see their status awaiting approval. So that means I'm Julian, they're waiting for me to approve their report. So I'll go ahead and click on the report title, and this little area comes up with all of the information that the board member has sent over. So the first thing that I like to do, I go through a little checklist, is I like to look at the receipt first. So I click on the little paperclip icon and I see what they've uploaded as their receipt. Now, this is a receipt for an Uber, I see, and it's a pretty good receipt. I see the date on it as well as the time, and I see the amount. I also see that there's a map here. This is downtown LA, and I can see the two locations that they Ubered from. Ideally, if this were a perfect receipt, I would maybe for an Uber in particular see both of the addresses, and I'd also probably like to see the payment method used, just so that we know, since you guys all have credit cards now, that you're not being reimbursed twice for something. But for now, this will do. This is a pretty good receipt. And I make sure that the amount on the receipt is the same as the amount that the board member has put in. So that's $805. So that's pretty good. And the category, there's a little bit of confusion between what a category and a project is. The way that I like to define it is a category is going to be a reoccurring or an ongoing expense. It's kind of going to be an accumulation of all the expenses related to that category. Now, a project is going to be something with a specific date to it. Now, this needs to be ignored actually because it's incorrect here. We're currently in the process of moving towards QuickBooks, and the board member Alejandro wasn't aware of the different project names, but this project name would be something like the name of the event. So Meet and Greet 2019 or Welcome Back event. And you guys should be familiar with this because at the beginning of this video, I just told you what to do for all the projects. So ideally in here, it would have said something like Meet and Greet. Now, so hopefully that makes sense. If you have any questions about this, please let me know. Again, there's probably a more technical definition of it on Zoho Expense, but for our purposes, think of these project names as having a start and an end date, and these categories as being a reoccurring or an accumulation of expenses. All right, so the rest of this looks pretty good. We see that it's waiting for approval from Julian. It was submitted by Alejandro. The receipt matches the amount. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and approve the report. Confirm that I'm going to approve it. And now we see that the status of this report has been changed. It now says approved. So from here, we have to determine whether or not the board member needs to be reimbursed for it. So pretty simple. If you're using the credit card, then you don't need to be reimbursed because the credit card that I gave you to all your locations obviously is coming out of the bank account directly. But if you used your own money for something, then of course, yes, you would need to be reimbursed for it. So you can't really see anything from this side here. But if you guys watched my last video on Zoho expense submitting those reports, this will be whether or not they checked that claim reimbursement box. So you just have to think about it, kind of use your brain. Did Alejandro pay for this himself? It seems like yes. So we're going to have to reimburse him. But if the credit card was used, you're not going to reimburse him because, again, that would be a double reimbursement. And like I said, you can't really see anything right here on it, but you're about to see what that looks like from this side. So I'll go ahead and just show you. So we are going to reimburse him through Forte, which is a software that we implemented last year. I'm going to also film a tutorial rather, on how people should be putting in their bank accounts, people as in board members, because that's how we will be reimbursing them via ACH. But for now, we know that Alejandro has already put in his bank account, and so we will always be using via ACH. We'll be always using Forte. Now, there's a small disclaimer to that. We'll always be using ACH, but Forte actually only goes up to $500. So if there's a scenario where you have to pay, where they have to be reimbursed for something over $500, ideally you're going to be using the credit card. But if for some reason something was paid for or needs a wire transfer, they would be doing it manually. But basically, for our purposes, for your purposes, you're going to be always reimbursing via ACH. So I come here, I see this little window pop up that they need to be reimbursed. Now, what I was talking about the claim reimbursement checkbox or not. So this means if this window comes up, this ACH reimbursement window comes up, this means that the checkbox, that claim reimbursement checkbox, has been checked by the board member. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go ahead and watch my last video about submitting a Zoho expense report. But this window would not come up if the box was unchecked. So the box was checked. That means they need to be reimbursed. And using my brain, I think, yes, this Uber was paid for by Alejandro, so I'm going to reimburse him. It shows me here that the online reimbursement cannot be undone, again, because it's integrated with Forte, which is the software that reimburses our board members. So I'm going to press confirm here. Great. So now I see here the status has been updated. This report has been reimbursed. And over here, you can double check this by seeing that this little red box says ACH payment initiated, meaning that Forte is going to send the payment to the board member's bank account, whatever bank account that they put in the software, in their account, their profile rather. And once the payment has gone through to the board member, this little box actually ends up turning green. So if you get some board members who are like, hey, I haven't received my reimbursement yet, can you check whether or not I've been reimbursed? If you come back to their report and you see that this red box is still here, that it's been initiated, that means the payment hasn't been sent over yet. Once the payment has been sent over to their bank account, like I said, this turns green. So it should say something like ACH payment completed, or I forget the exact word that it says, but it turns green. All right. Now I'm going to show you one more thing. I'm actually just going to kind of talk you through it because we don't really have any examples on Julian's account. But if we, let me see, actually, I was going to let me actually open my account. Instead of only talking you through it, I think it's better. I'm a visual person, so yes, this is my account. All right. So let me go through some past expenses. I'll give you a little visual for what I was talking about before. All right, so here, for example, this report has already been reimbursed, so that's why this is ACH green. That means I should be able to go to my bank account right now and see that this amount of money has been reimbursed. Now, what I wanted to explain was that even if you are using the card. And if you're using the card, that means you don't need to be reimbursed. I still want you guys to mark things as reimbursed, because in order for you to keep track of everything, for example, here, like Julian has one report right now, right? So not too hard to keep track of. But if you see, oh, this is mine from here. If you see my account, which has been used since last year, so it has a year plus of transactions. There are so many transactions here. There's literally no, how am I going to keep track of this, right? This is only like one of the pages. So what I want you guys to do is, let me see if I can show you here. What I want you guys to do, actually I kind of just showed you. What I want you guys to do is what I said. I want you to mark things as reimbursed, even if they're being used by the credit card. Now, what that means is when you press the via ACH, so if you go back a few minutes here and you go back to where I showed you reimbursing via ACH, if the box is unchecked, meaning that you use the credit card, it will come up with a window and it'll say that this report is non-reimbursable. And from there, all it'll say is ask you if you want to mark as reimbursed. So even though all these reports here were not necessarily reimbursed via Forte, they have been checked as reimbursed because that's how I check to make sure that I'm not missing anyone and that I didn't skip out on a report. Now, I can go ahead and show you guys that when we do our call. I don't have an example here right now, but if you have any questions about that, please let me know. What it really is it's for you guys. It's for you to keep track of everything. I find it very, very important because if you're approving like 50 plus different expenses for one event and then you have another event right after, you have a member experience, you have board expenses, there's a high chance that you might forget one. So in order to keep yourself sane and in order to keep everything organized, I just want you guys to mark everything as reimbursed, even when it's being purchased using the credit card. So hopefully that all makes sense. I'll go ahead and upload this video, and please let me know if you have any questions at all. If that last portion that I explained is a little confusing, I'll try to go ahead and find an example of it and film that as well. But for now, just know that everything should be marked as reimbursed. You guys should be looking through the Zoho expense reports and really making sure that whoever has submitted them has submitted the correct receipt. I'll even show you a receipt that is an ideal Uber receipt, kind of like the one I was talking to you guys about. So this is an example. I have the total amount that was spent, the card that was used, which I see here does not match the credit card that each board location has, which means I used my own personal account. That means I do need to be reimbursed. And I have the two addresses here, so I can see that I was taking an Uber for the purpose of expat and not just charging expat for random Ubers.